And Draymond, I'm going to start with you. We heard the comments from LeBron James. You've had your runs. You've played with MVPs. Does this statement ring true to you? Does jealousy always creep in?
100%. I think, we've seen it on several basketball teams, football teams. We've seen it in several bands, where the lead singer is doing his thing and, the number two, number three feel like they can be a number one. And, quite frankly, we've seen it in large companies as well, but it's just not in the public eye. So LeBron definitely has a great point there, and he and Anthony definitely seem like they have a great chemistry. AD doesn't come off as that type of guy, and obviously LeBron isn't, and that's why they're in the position they're in right now.
Shaq, I got to come to you with this since we're on this topic, because a lot's been said about all of your relationships when you've played with the other bigs that you've been partnered up with. Does jealousy factor in, and how do you try to curtail it or not have it come into a position?
I have to agree with Draymond, but you have to look at this factor a little different. And what I mean by that, LeBron is a guy, as great as he is, he's a little bit more Magic Johnson than Michael Jordan. What I mean by that, LeBron will give you the ball. So as a big guy, when you're playing with a guy that gives you the ball, the relationship will always be good. Now, as a big guy, if you're playing with a guy that's ball dominant, then little arguments start to creep in here and there. But as long as the respect factor is there, you can win. And of course, when you have a dominant 1-2 punch, you're definitely going to need each other. But a lot of it starts when people start to say, whose team is it? And it's your team. And then you got people saying, well, no, it's not your team. You need to run the offense. You need to do this. So jealousy does creep in. But this factor, when you have a small that loves to pass to the big, they will never have a problem. Now, when you talk about him and Kyrie, two guys that, love to have the ball, of course, jealousy may kick in there.
Was that the church calling?
That wasn't my phone.
Him right now. They're calling him because he's on TV and he's not. Charles is calling him because he's jealous right now. He's on TV and he's not. So I'll jump into that too, because
you know what that was? You know what that was, Kenny? That was the. You know what that was? That was the members of your church saying that I need to donate some more money.
No doubt. You will harvest times 10, my brother. You will harvest times 10 with your donation, brother. I will tell you that.
Go ahead, Kenny.
Stephanie, jealousy. I played with and played with great players, and you watch that dynamic, how it develops. Two things I think. One, Anthony Davis said something the other day. I think it was maybe last week. He's like, I just remember 15 years old, getting on that Greyhound bus and going to LeBron's camp. So right there, you could tell that the dynamic of jealousy is going to be ceased, because he has such an affinity to a guy. He went to his basketball camp, and he was a member there, looking up, sitting in the stands or sitting on the floor as LeBron is sitting there telling the lecture. Like, he has that revering spirit. The second thing is your coaching and leadership. With Shaq, with Phil Jackson, they're able to bring certain things and make you not focus on that, knowing that it can keep in. Coaching is a big dynamic in terms of that. Front office management. I remember Shaq, and he's talked about it, and I could talk about things with Houston, but Shaq is here now. Management coming down, Jerry West saying, Shaq, we're not going to have that. Or Kobe, we're not going to have that. And that is huge with inside it, because when people see it prior to it's happening, then they can help prevent it, or they can at least calm it down. But if you let the fury run, especially if you're a coach or a general manager or a president, and you let it run and then you try to stop it, the fire and the snowball's already going. So you have to have a pulse of your team if you're a coach or a general manager. And as a player, if you have a reverence to one of the players, then like with Dream and Clyde Drexler, they had a reverence of playing together in college. They knew each other at 18. They used to borrow each other's clothes, pizza money together. So they understood things that other players wouldn't.
Grant, can you think of an example, and you don't have to be specific, but where you've seen jealousy eat a team up from the inside out, and it serves as a detriment to their success?
Yeah, Stephanie, I won't name names, but I played on teams, with guys and not getting along, and it does. I mean, and when you look at the Lakers, and certainly these guys, sort of, summed it up best. there's been no talk, no nothing all season about this team. No dissension, no discord, no back and forth. Everything has been just a wonderful, wonderful spirit about this team. And you can tell they enjoy playing for one another and respect one another. But a lot of that, as everyone's saying, is because LeBron and AD figured it out. And I think LeBron, being a player of his stature, a player who's the things that he said privately, but also publicly, that this is AD's team. He's embraced that. He's publicly pushed him and challenged him and set the expectation level for him. And then you look at somebody like Dwight Howard, who has had some issues where he's been, and he's come in. There hasn't been one problem whatsoever, at least that's come out publicly. So, I think a lot of that is the culture, as Kenny was talking about, but it's the maturity and the character of LeBron James and Anthony Davis. And when you have that, when you have a situation where everyone's pulling in the right direction and you have talent, then you have a chance to do something really, really special. And in the words of Reverend Kenny, thou shalt not be jealous. And so the Lakers embody that.
This joke is never going to get old. Draymond, we have to come to you. We have to go to you, Draymond, because you're the only one of the champions on this panel that is still actively playing with the Golden State Warriors. So how important is it? Grant brought up a good point. Just because it happens in the locker room doesn't mean that we all have to find out about it.
Well, I think there's always things that's going to happen in the locker room that shouldn't get out. One thing I've always had a problem with is when media's in the locker room. I feel like the locker room is a sacred place for a team, and it's a place that only the teammates should be in. And because that's where you settle your differences. That's where everybody can put everything on the table. And Kenny said something that was huge. He spoke on the post. And I think, and to take it even a step further in what Shaq was saying, when you have a team, it's not always going to be your two best guys that's a leader. And so when you look at this Lakers team, even if something was happening with a LeBron and AD where that could have crept in, which I don't think it was at all, you have a Rondo, a Danny Green, guys who are experienced, who are also champions, who can step in and talk to the both of them and kind of play mediator. And I think that's always important. When you look at a Shaq and a Kobe, they have Rick Fox and different guys like that. And so I think, it's extremely important that in that locker room, everything is tight-knit and it stays in there. Because throughout the course of an 82-game season and tackle on the playoffs, there's always something that's going to happen amongst the team that must stay in there in order for that team to keep it rolling forward.
I love it. I love the insight. Draymond, we thank you. We always appreciate you joining us here.
Thanks for having me.
You want to say anything to the Reverend? Kidding. We'll be back. I couldn't resist. We'll say goodbye to you, Draymond. Ladies and gentlemen at home, we'll say goodbye to you for a second.